Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Germantown's live streamed worship service. My name is Javier Ramos, and I am the worship associate this morning. The bread communion will be led by our intern minister, Latifa Griffin. Our musicians this morning are Mark Dougherty, Beverly Gross Spencer, Bob Heffley, and Karen Smith. A special thanks to Tim Spencer for recording our musicians. Our technical help this morning is given by Avery Hamill, Treva Berger, Carolyn Bright, Carolyn Scott, and Celeste Lamb. Before we begin our service, we have a few announcements. Visitors and return guests, we're glad to see you, as well as regular members and friends. For more information about our congregation and programs, please email the welcoming team at welcoming@usguu.org. Now, we turn our attention to the here and now and to our spirits as we begin our worship service. We now light the chalice, a symbol of our faith and community, with the following words by Barbara Crooker. Praise the light of late November, the thin sunlight that goes deep in the bones. Praise the meadow of dried weeds. Praise the blue sky that hasn't cracked yet. Praise the sun slipping down behind the beech nuts. Praise the quilt of leaves that covers the grass. Though darkness gathers, praise our crazy fallen world. It's all we have, and it's never enough.
Good morning. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I want to take a moment and lift up Howard Silver, who created and has been running our Center of Mindfulness at USG since 2018. Howard is stepping down from his role as coordinator at this time, and he's left us with some pretty big shoes to fill. Although USG has offered meditation workshops for the last decade, under Howard's leadership, our programs have flourished. He's especially been pivotal in these last 8 months as he oversaw the transition of the center's programs from in-person workshops to online events. And in the process, Howard helped us build a true community that stretches beyond USG's membership and into the tri-state area. So while Howard is stepping down as coordinator, he's still going to be with us hosting some of our Zoom sits from time to time. And he's also leading a construction project to refurbish Sullivan 3 as a professional meditation space, which we're all going to get to enjoy when we come back to in-person workshops in the not so distant future. Howard, we are blessed to have your focus, your presence, and your drive. And I wish you some much deserved rest and peace this holiday season. Thank you for all you do. And now I'd like to shift and introduce our Time for All Ages. We're going to show an animated video short. It also serves as a time of reflection on the topic of gratitude and healing. These days, to be sure, have been full of grief and worry about the future. And it can be tough to transition to gratitude or thanksgivings when we know that so many around us may be suffering even more. It can even feel selfish at first blush. But paradoxically, what I've discovered for myself is that gratitude helps move past our individual needs and see the bigger picture. And what's more, gratitude isn't a feeling, it's a practice. It's a spiritual practice. And when we make space for gratitude, to remember all the blessings of our lives, to literally count our blessings, a little space opens up in the heart. And in this way, gratitude works to heal our own wounds, our isolation, and this naturally leads to service for others. And the more that we practice this, the more that the world warms in our hands. So this video short is titled Mr. Indifferent, and it's mixed with the evocative music of Sachin Jagar. It shows what this transformation looks like on the street, starting with a single, unexpected touch.
Hands off the keyboard and get your singing voices ready. We ask that you please refrain from typing in the chat during the entirety of our hymn so that the lyrics stay still. Please join us in singing hymn 67, We Sing Now Together.
time, she lovingly adds bitter melon, bits of chili, leaves of Thai basil, and long beans, and to her favorite Burmese dish, takpa. Nado makes this tasty dish with her own loving hands right here in South Philly, where she lives among a large community of Burmese immigrants. These ingredients Nado has picked from her own little garden within Growing Home Gardens, which is a 10-year-old community garden where dozens of Burmese immigrants plant and harvest. Having recently put down roots in Philadelphia, many elders and grandparents teach traditional agriculture and cuisine to their grandchildren. Folks in the neighborhood say this is so healing for us. We're so grateful for the ability for knowledge to be passed down from generation to generation, and then we all engage in cooking and sharing of tasty, healthy food. In the Burmese community racked by years of trauma, this experience empowers gardeners and chefs to facilitate gratitude and generosity and healing. I start today's sermon with the premise that times are exceedingly difficult. Times are tough. With pandemic spiking and our communities going back into more restrictive ways of living, it's difficult to overstate the negative consequences people are suffering economically, educationally, emotionally, and other. So many of us feel bumped and bruised by this roller coaster ride of up and down. I feel bruised. What are you feeling bruised from this intense roller coaster ride? Too many folks at home trying to work and do virtual school, or perhaps being isolated, not having enough physical interaction or contact with others, or perhaps worrying intensively about how you're going to make ends meet with a loss of income or something else. Our spiritual theme of the month, healing, comes right on time when so many of us need healing very much. Healing is the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. Our intern minister, Miss Latifah Griffin, gave a wonderful sermon last Sunday, reminding us that in beloved community, we each have the ability to be healed and to heal others. This Thanksgiving, I invite you to explore how healing can be facilitated by gratitude and generosity, giving thanks and giving back. I like to break down this word Thanksgiving, giving, thanks, and giving. However you take it, reflecting upon ways we've been nicked or cut by life, our inner wisdom assures us that living with gratitude and generosity, we can heal. Barbara Brown Taylor is an excellent pastor and theologian. In her book, An Altar in the World, Taylor suggests a way to chart how healing has worked in your life. Take a sheet of paper, draw a line on it. One end of the line, write your birth. On the other end of the line, write today. Then chart the significant events of your life which have made you who you are. Reflecting on the graph, Reverend Taylor says, you're likely to note that the spikes in pain bear some relationship to the healing and leaps in growth. It was when your family moved for the fourth time in 5 years that you learned to enjoy your own company. It was when your partner left you that you remembered what else you were meant to do in life beyond staying together. It was when the doctor called about the spot on your lung that you finally made up with your sister. Healing often comes through Thanksgiving. Oftentimes, after being worn down to a nub, you can realize that feeling grateful for what you still have opens way to becoming more sound again. For me, the haircut was the big deal. BC, as I call it, before COVID, for many years I did my own buzz cut. I had my little clipper routine that that was the way I did it. And after COVID hit, I decided, what the heck? Why don't I experiment with growing my hair out? Limited as it is. I am a realist about the limitations. But eventually I had to put some shape on that bush, and I found a barber that looked cool in Manayunk. I made an appointment, and then wearing my mask, I was so grateful. Park the car, walk in the shop, say hello in person to human beings. Hey man, what's going on? How you doing? What? Human beings, human contact. Sit in the chair like a real barber chair. Feel the arms. This is a real barber chair with the feet down, and then getting my hair cut by another human being. The entire experience really was a balm to my soul, and that haircut brought healing to my pandemic blues ridden heart. Healing comes through Thanksgiving. When you're exhausted, as many of us have been, one way of healing is sleep, giving thanks and showing gratitude, generosity to your body. Just sleep. So someone else has been sleeping more. Another way when you're exhausted to fill back up involves helping others. And Howard Silver's done that for years of dedication, helping to build up our excellent mindfulness programs. Howard preached about his gratitude for developing the practice of mindfulness in his own life, and then his gratitude growing into a commitment of sharing the practice with others. A lot of healing has happened. Many studies show that mindfulness helps with healing and resilience for people encountering a wide range of difficulties, from cancer to anxiety to liver disease. And now we have so many wonderful teachers and classes and retreats that are ongoing, creating space for people to pay attention and to heal and to become fully themselves. Thank you, Howard. We know this holiday is so intensely complicated. We have paradoxes and ambiguities in celebrating this holiday, because right now we mourn the fact that so many Native Americans had their land stolen and suffered brutal, systematic violence. Truth and reconciliation must also be a part of healing. But within all that, we also acknowledge that there are paradoxes and ambiguities, complexities. The Puritans were in search of religious freedom, which they established for themselves. It became a model for others. We recognize that in many ways, not only does this holiday represent brutal colonization, but it's America's most popular non-religious holiday, probably America's most sacred non-religious holiday. In many ways, it's become our American Seder. It represents many ways we are united as a people and ways in which we give thanks and make tangible efforts to heal and improve the well-being of others. pandemic conditions have pressed us to figure out what activities we can do that are still safe, that we really enjoy. Music's been a big deal. We love the music of our worship service. I know Mark and Kristen Schippler also listen regularly to Raji Malik's new album that he dropped. What music are you going to? I know there's a lot of music in pandemic, and we're also going to nature. We've been going to the woods. We've been going to the grass. You cannot get COVID from the grass. It's good or bad. Nope, you can't get COVID from a tree. Poet John O'Donohue wrote a poem called "For One Who Is Exhausted, a Blessing," which speaks to this moment. When the rhythm of the heart becomes hectic, the light of the mind becomes dim. Things you could take and strive before now become laborsome events. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls slow and free. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Gradually, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells far within slow time. I love that poem, giving thanks for the ways of rain when it falls slow and free, drawn alongside silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Being excessively gentle with yourself. I pray you will. I pray you will. I pray you will embrace the wide open contours of your heart. I pray you will experience a healing grace, the thanksgiving of simply being yourself. Blessings be.
In our church community, we wrap our love around all those with concerns or sorrows. Our thoughts and prayers are with Rudy Sprinkle as he recovers from a painful break to his big toe. Dallas Graham Sr., who is preparing for heart surgery. Our thoughts and prayers are with Dallas, his wife Brene, and their son Dallas Graham Jr. Sharon Mafuru is recovering from surgery. Send love to her and her boys, David and Lusato. John Cohen, Jody Hill's husband, who is resting at home in quarantine. We share sad news about Reverend Chester McCall, who passed away on Monday. He was in California, surrounded by loved ones. Chester served at Restoration Church and was a friend to many of us. We celebrate gladly all those with joys, and we acknowledge the deep satisfaction that can be found in everyday life. We are glad to hear that Jen Bright, our child care staff lead, and other members of her family who had tested positive for COVID-19 are now recovered. Let us rejoice for the families who have gathered in spirit this Thanksgiving to express their thanks and to celebrate the bounty of their lives. Let us join together in support of those whose families are far away with distances in many forms. Let us hold one another in gentle reverence this holiday of Thanksgiving, for we are here to celebrate, to worship, and to be thankful for what we have. Life newly born among us this year will carry our legacy into the future. Death among us this year has given us tears of sorrow and yesterdays to remember. Illnesses, accidents, and surgeries among us this year have reminded us of the fragileness of our lives. We have had marriages, reunions, reconciliations, and we have had and still do have our beloved community, our religious home where we come together virtually in love and in compassion. For all these things, we give thanks this day. Let us be silent together.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Once a month, we share a plate with a cause that works beyond the walls of our church. This Share the Plate Sunday, we're going to be supporting the USG COVID Relief Fund, which is a great cause. I'm going to pass it over in a minute to Andrea Barsovic, our president. I want to say that it's been a real honor and pleasure to work with Andrea very closely and the board as these choppy, rough seas of 2020. The board has continued to do what it takes to keep this organization stable in every way, financially, in the building, and to make sure people have what they take to keep this place running with a staff that's being treated right, so we can do these ministries that matter so much in connecting with the wider community and doing everything we can to help those in need amongst ourselves and beyond during this crisis. So I now am really pleased to hand it over to our illustrious President, Andrea Barsbeck.
Thank you, Kent. Good morning, all. I am appealing to you today because we live in a community of need. Before the pandemic, 1 out of every 4 Philadelphia households lived below the federal poverty line. Almost 380,000 Philadelphians living in poverty. This is a sobering reminder of the needs in our community. The pandemic has magnified those needs. Businesses closed, jobs lost, food and housing insecurity. We also live in a community of abundance. We are blessed by great generosity within our congregation. USG has created a COVID relief fund. With your donations, a gift from the Toledo Foundation, and help from the Sullivan Assistance Fund, we have raised $28,500 of our $50,000 goal. The COVID Relief Fund has given away over $17,000 to individuals, to the new sanctuary movement that supports undocumented immigrants, to men who care in Germantown, who address food insecurity, and to the Lest We Forget Slavery Museum to keep the doors open and the lights on. The Sullivan Assistance Fund has grown from a $5,000 bequest in 1937 to over $270,000 in June of 2020. In this time of pandemic, it has made generous gifts to the Germantown Mutual Aid Society to alleviate housing and food insecurity, to the COVID Relief Fund, to the Philadelphia Interfaith Hospitality Network to provide diapers for children and adults, and to individuals with economic insecurity. But there is so much more we need to do. We need to raise $22,000 more to reach our $50,000 goal for COVID relief, and we need your assistance with that. We want families in need to come forward, whether it is for help with rent or mortgage, utilities, medications, or school expenses. We have your back. Contact Reverend Kent or the Caring Committee for a confidential conversation about your situation. We also need thoughtful and creative ideas for how to spend COVID relief dollars in the community for maximum benefit. Send your ideas to the COVID Relief Committee. At USG, we come together to help our church community and the wider community. We may practice social distancing, but we are not emotionally distant. If you give to the COVID Relief Fund, you can trust USG to make the most of your donations. We will get your dollars to the individuals and organizations in our community where they have the broadest impact locally. With the holidays upon us, please be generous to those in need. Make a generous holiday gift to the COVID Relief Fund. Thank you.
This church and congregation are places of love, giving, and hope, where distance does not keep us apart. As you can, we now collect the offering for the ongoing work of this community. The offering today goes to the USG COVID Relief Fund. To donate via text, send the amount you wish to give. There we go. The amount you wish to give. And COVID sends $20 to USG's COVID Relief Fund. If you want to do for your pledge, you do the amount you wish to give, space, then pledge, and you can send it to 215-608-2660. You can also give online at usguu.org/give, and the instructions are also in the chat.
Good morning. We have now reached the portion of our service where we are going to have a bread communion. So hopefully, if you're able, you have your bread. All day long, we are building beloved community, creating a sacred place for all. For many years in a row, this congregation has enjoyed the children of the church baking bread and handing it out for bread communion. This year, in order to be safe, we can engage the ritual in the same way, albeit virtual. This year, we invite you to take your own bread or muffin or cracker to participate. The baking and sharing of bread is deeply important. There are many different forms, but every cultural tradition has some kind of bread. And not everyone has enough bread, especially this year with so many people struggling with economic hardships. Sharing bread on our Thanksgiving Sunday shows that everybody is worth feeding. We have a common interest in making sure that there is bread for all, not only for our children or for our congregation, but for the world. So what could be more sacred than that, right? So bread for everyone, bread for the world. Eat up.
now extinguish the chalice as we end our worship service. All are invited to linger for fellowship in the breakout rooms. Blessings to you in this coming week. Now please pass the virtual peace to your neighbors.